What would you say is a more impressive superpower? Assembling a car in under 1 minute, or serving your morning coffee? I'm pretty sure most of you would go with the first one, right? After all, it is pretty superhuman to put a car together that fast, whereas we all can serve coffee. Now, when we think about getting robots to do each of these things, you would think that building a robot that can put together a car would be much harder than building a robot that can become a butler. It turns out, though, that we actually have already built machines that can put together a whole car, in just 46 seconds. Impressive, right? We've also managed to build machines that can serve your coffee from a cage, which is great, but I still have to go walk to the coffee cart and get it, which defeats the purpose of having a butler. What I really want, though, is to have this robot at home, getting my morning coffee for me every morning, just the way I like it, next to my already prepared breakfast, without me having to lift a single finger. So where is this robot? Clearly it's not here yet, otherwise I wouldn't have had to AI generate this image. But robots seem to have all of these industrial superpowers. So what's taking them so long to get to our homes and do something as mundane as serve our coffee? What's the problem? We are the problem. Humans. We are the kryptonite to our robots. There we go. In the factory, robots live in this perfect vacuum where everything is known, where every car piece is, where to get the next tool from, what every other robot is doing, so they can easily synchronize. Just look at them. They're a perfect harmony. And then you have these rascals. Human environments are dynamic and constantly changing. You want to make breakfast, but a human is playing with a box of cereal. You want to serve coffee, but the table is cluttered. Or maybe the human is working on their laptop, so you have to be extra careful with how and where you place their coffee. So humans introduce a lot of uncertainty and uncontrollable variables that are still really difficult for robots to handle. Before MIT, I worked at the AI Institute, and this is one of the quotes that I found there that really stuck with me. If it weren't for the people, the world would be an engineer's paradise. Because if it weren't for the people, the world would be much less chaotic, and our robots would have a much easier time in it. So what I think is that the real superpower is the ability to interact and coexist with people. This is the superpower that we've been searching for, and in fact, every single one of you in this room has it, but our robots still don't. So that's why for the past several years, I've been spending a lot of time trying to get robots to enter human environments and work in human environments. Because ultimately, if we want robots to not just live in a vacuum or a cage, they have to be capable to learn from and adapt to the people that they interact with. As an example, here this robot, let's call him Jaco, wants to carry this mug over to my colleague. And so it generates a trajectory that trades off between different important concepts in the task. Things like the cup orientation, the distance to the table, or efficiency. Now, as the robot is doing its task, I eventually noticed that it's carrying the cup a little bit too high above the table. So I can push on it to correct it, and then the robot can use my correction and adapt to how I want the task to be done, and stay closer to the table to hand over the mug to my colleague. So this is one example where robots can adapt to people. Now, why did this work? How did the robot know what I wanted just from my push? Well, notice that in its brain, the robot already has all of these many different things that the person could possibly care about. It has these concepts. But as people, our brains evolutionarily had to spend a lot of time building these concepts to make sense of the world. And in fact, even little children still don't have these complete models of the world yet. Let's have a look.
Okay, does this robot have more quarters? Does this robot have more quarters, or are they the same?
The same.
The same? Okay, now watch. Now, does this robot have more quarters? Does this robot have more quarters, or are they the same?
That one has more quarters.
That one has more quarters?
Yeah.
Why does that one have more quarters?
Because it's stressed out.
So here this child is clearly missing something, right? He's missing this concept of conservation of certain properties like count. Very normal for a child this age. But without understanding this concept, the child answers incorrectly. And not only that, but he's then able to explain his wrong answers with all these other concepts he knows about that are actually unrelated. In this way, our robots are still like little children. Let's say that this time, I want the robot to not carry the cup above my personal laptop. The problem is the robot has no concept of distance to laptop. It was never programmed into it. So now my push makes it learn the wrong thing. It makes it learn to stay closer to the table. So by trying to engineer the human, we're inevitably going to be missing something. So in my work, I've been thinking about how can we get robots to understand the world in the same way that humans do. And my answer has been to just ask the humans. Since we already have all of these models of the world, it only makes sense that we should be able to transfer our knowledge to our robots the same way that we teach each other. Now, asking the human is expensive, so we don't have a whole lot of human data to work with. So a key principle in my work has been to learn a lot from a little. And now I'd like to showcase a few examples where following this principle has enabled us to build robots for people. One way to learn a lot from a little is to ask the human for input that is very informative to the robot, but it is very easy for the person to give. So here we wanted to actually learn this concept that the robot was missing of distance to laptop. So we invented this new kind of input where I start somewhere where the concept is really highly expressed, so above the laptop, and then I move the robot away to somewhere where the concept is not highly expressed, so away from the laptop. After the robot collects a few of these inputs that span the concept, it can learn the concept as a neural network and use it in its tasks. So now that the robot understands what it means to have distance to laptop, it's able to do the task in the way that I wanted. It stays close to the table and also keeps some distance away from my laptop. Another way for approaching this principle is to simply collect a small amount of labels from the person and then amplify them using simulation. So if the human wants to teach the near concept, they can label a bunch of images with near or not near. And then in simulation, we can spawn many, many different objects and augment this data set of labels into a much bigger data set of thousands and thousands of examples for free. So what this means is that we can learn these concepts like objects being near or above one another very robustly. And they translate, they can transfer to the real world without any additional human data. You might also want your robot to exhibit some expressive behavior, like tiptoeing to its goal when it's afraid or stomping aggressively when angry. Emotion, as you might imagine, is a very subjective and thus very challenging concept to convey to our robots. But luckily, cognitive scientists have made this a little bit easier for us. And they found that all emotion lives on this three-dimensional space. And by having this very nice structure, we're able to learn a whole mapping from emotion to these kinds of expressive robot behaviors with very little human feedback. And as a bonus, because language is very flexible, we're able to generalize our models to emotive phrases that the robot never saw before, like, great weather today, or didn't get the offer. In the last example I'd like to show to you, we had a human demonstrate throwing away the can in two different situations. And after the fact, we asked the robot, why were the behaviors different? Now, to us, it's pretty common sense that the human didn't want to step on the electronics. So we wanted to imbue the same sort of common sense reasoning into our robots. Large language models, which have been all the hype these days, possess a lot of this general human knowledge, and so they were very good at extracting this hidden common sense reason, despite the fact that the human didn't say anything about it. So we equipped our robot with an LLM, a large language model, and it was able to generalize to these completely new situations without any new human feedback. To end, what I discussed about today is that the real superpower that we're really hoping to see from our robots is the ability to interact with humans. I think we're at this very exciting point in robotics where we're starting to redefine what is a robot and what its place in our society should be. We started by talking and thinking about robots as these industrial superhuman machines. And if I were to place them on a robotic timeline evolution, I would say that they're pretty similar to where the indestructible but limited Nokia phone once was. We've recently started seeing some robots enter our human world, notably autonomous cars, but their interaction is still pretty limited to just simple collision avoidance with people. So, some progress. What I'm really excited about, though, is the smartphone of robotics, this personal robot that I can have at home, in the office, in the hospital, at school, that can do all these different things for us while also adapting to my own unique needs. From serving your breakfast or your coffee, to doing the chores in the house, like the dishes, folding the laundry, or even helping our elderly with mobility tasks. We're not there yet, but I believe these robots will come and change our lives in exciting ways. Thank you.